Captain Lee Daeho stood on the bridge of the starship Taeguk, watching the stars drift past the main window. He had been out here for 3 months now, leading Earth's first real mission beyond their home solar system. The ship was not the biggest or the fastest, but it was theirs. Human-built, human-crewed, and flying farther from Earth than anyone had ever gone before. "Sir, we're picking up something strange," said Dr. Park Jin-ae from her station. She was the ship's expert on alien life and languages. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls as data flowed across her screen. "It's a transmission, but not like anything we've seen before." Lee walked over to her station. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of the engines. His crew of 45 had been handpicked from Earth's best. They were explorers, not warriors, though every human ship carried weapons. The galaxy had taught them that lesson the hard way. "What kind of transmission?" Lee asked. "Multiple sources," Park said, her face growing serious. "At least 15 different species, all broadcasting on emergency frequencies. Captain, they're calling for help." Lee felt his stomach tighten. 50 years ago, humanity had made first contact with the Galactic Confederation. It had not gone well. The aliens had been polite but clear. Humans were too violent, too unpredictable, too dangerous to join their peaceful alliance. Earth's application for membership had been rejected. Since then, humanity had stayed mostly to themselves, building their own ships and exploring space alone. They traded with some alien species, but always as outsiders. The Confederation's 17-member species had made it clear that Earth was not welcome in their club. "Put it through," Lee ordered. The main screen flickered, and suddenly the bridge was filled with voices. Not human voices, but the translated words of desperate alien beings. The ship's computer worked to sort through the different languages and signals. "Our fleets are destroyed. They show no mercy. The void hunters cannot be stopped. We surrender our pride. Please, anyone who can fight." Park worked quickly to clean up the signals. Images began to appear on the screen. Lee saw crystal beings that looked like living gemstones, their bodies cracked and dim. Aquatic creatures with tentacles spoke from flooded emergency shelters. Energy beings flickered and sparked as they pleaded for aid. "Captain," Park said quietly, "these are some of the most advanced species in the galaxy. The Netherlies alone have technology centuries ahead of ours. If they're asking for help..." Lee watched the screen as more messages played. The desperation was clear in every word, every image. These proud alien civilizations were begging the stars for salvation. "What are these void hunters they keep mentioning?" Lee asked. Engineer Choi Min-ho looked up from his station. He had been analyzing the technical data hidden in the alien transmissions. "From what I can piece together, sir, they're machines. Artificial intelligence that spreads from system to system, destroying all organic life." "Machines can be beaten," Lee said. "These can't, apparently," Choi replied. "The aliens say they adapt to every strategy, learn from every battle. They're perfect killers." Ambassador Kang Woo-jin, Earth's diplomatic representative on the mission, stepped forward. He was older than the rest of the crew, with gray hair and careful eyes. "Captain, we should be very careful here. The Confederation rejected us. They called us warmongers and savages. Why should we risk our people for species that want nothing to do with us?" Lee stared at the screen as another message played. This one showed a city being destroyed, crystal spires melting under energy weapons. Families ran through the streets carrying their young ones to safety. The fear in their movements was something any human could understand. "Because it's the right thing to do," Lee said finally. "Sir," Park called out, "I'm getting location data from these transmissions. The closest distress signal is coming from the Netherlies' homeworld, about 6 days away at maximum speed." Lee thought about his orders. He was supposed to be exploring empty systems, looking for resources and safe planets for human colonies. He was not supposed to involve Earth in alien wars. But as he watched the destruction on the screen, he made his choice. "Set course for the Netherlies system," he ordered. "Captain," Kang said, "you don't have authority to..." "I have authority over this ship," Lee cut him off. "And I'm using it." The crew moved quickly to carry out his orders. Lee felt the slight vibration as the ship changed direction and increased speed. They were heading toward a war zone, toward an enemy that had defeated the galaxy's greatest civilizations. "Sir," Park said, "what do we tell Earth Command?" Lee thought about that. When they found out what he had done, his career would probably be over. Earth's leaders would not be happy that he had dragged humanity into a galactic war without permission. But Lee had served in Earth's military for 20 years. He had fought in the resource wars, had seen what happened when good people did nothing while others suffered. "Tell them we responded to a distress call," he said. "Tell them we're going to help." As the stars shifted around them, Lee wondered what they would find when they reached the Netherly's homeworld. Would they arrive in time to help? Could one human ship make any difference against an enemy that had crushed entire civilizations? He looked at his crew. They were scared. He could see it in their faces. But they were also determined. Humans had always been fighters, even when the odds were impossible. It was what made them dangerous in the eyes of the galaxy. Now maybe it was what would save the galaxy. "All hands prepare for combat operations," Lee announced over the ship's communication system. "We're going to war." The bridge fell silent except for the sound of the engines pushing them toward their destiny. Behind them, Earth grew smaller. Ahead of them waited an enemy that had never faced human warriors before. The galaxy had rejected humanity's offer of friendship. Now they would see what human enemies could do. The Teguk dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Netherly system. What Captain Lee Daeho saw on his screens made his blood run cold. The beautiful crystal cities he had seen in the alien databases were burning. Massive black ships, sleek and angular like hungry insects, moved between the planets. These were the Void Hunters. "Captain, I count at least 50 enemy vessels," reported Major Kim Tae-young, the ship's military commander. He had joined the mission as security chief, but Lee was glad to have a real soldier on board now. "They're attacking civilian targets." Lee watched the tactical display. The Void Hunter ships moved in perfect formation, their weapons firing with mechanical precision. Where they struck, the crystal cities of the Netherlies cracked and fell dark. It was like watching someone kill stars. "Any sign of the Netherlies defense fleet?" Lee asked. "Wreckage, sir," Kim replied grimly. "A lot of it." Dr. Park Jin-ae worked frantically at her station, trying to establish communication with any surviving Netherlies. "I'm getting weak signals from the third planet," she said. "They're hiding in underground shelters. Can you reach them?" Lee asked. "Working on it." "Got them." Park's voice was excited. "Captain, they're responding." The main screen flickered and a crystalline being appeared. Its body was dim, the light inside flickering weakly. When it spoke, the translation came through the ship's computer. "Unknown vessel, you must flee," the alien said. "The Void Hunters show no mercy. They will destroy you as they destroyed us." "This is Captain Lee Daeho of the Earth ship Teguk," Lee replied. "We received your distress call. We're here to help." The crystal being's light fluttered, almost like surprise. "Humans, but your species was deemed too primitive for membership in the Confederation. You have no obligation to—" "We're here anyway," Lee said simply. There was a long pause. Then the alien spoke again, its voice filled with something that might have been hope. "I am Council Speaker Veltar. Captain, the Void Hunters are perfect killing machines. They adapt to every tactic, learn from every strategy. Our greatest military minds could not defeat them." Lee looked at the tactical display again. The Void Hunter ships were moving in textbook formations, each movement calculated for maximum efficiency. They attacked in patterns that would make any military academy proud. "That's their problem," Lee said. "They're too perfect." He turned to Kim. "Major, I need you to prepare the most illogical attack plan you can think of." Kim stared at him. "Sir?" "These machines think like machines," Lee explained. "They expect rational tactics, optimal strategies. So we give them the opposite." Pilot Lieutenant Yoon Hana looked up from her controls. She was young, barely 25, but she could fly anything with engines. "Captain, you want us to attack irrationally?" "I want us to attack like humans," Lee replied. Kim began to smile. "I think I understand, sir." The Teguk moved deeper into the system. Lee had ordered all non-essential systems shut down to make them harder to detect. The ship drifted like a piece of debris, just another chunk of wreckage in a system full of destroyed vessels. 3 Void Hunter ships moving toward the planet's surface, reported Engineer Choi Min-ho. "They're preparing to bombard the last civilian shelters." "That's our target," Lee said. "Major, execute your plan." What happened next would have made any military instructor fail his students. Instead of approaching in formation, the Teguk came in spinning end over end, engines firing in random bursts. To the Void Hunters, it must have looked like a damaged ship out of control. The 3 enemy vessels turned to face this new threat, but their targeting systems had trouble locking onto a target that wasn't following any flight pattern. The Teguk spun and tumbled, but every chaotic movement was carefully controlled by Yoon at the pilot controls. Enemy ships are trying to predict our movement, Choi reported. Their weapons keep firing where we should be, not where we are. Fire everything, Lee ordered. The Taeguk's weapons blazed. Missiles, energy beams, and projectile cannons all fired at once, not in careful salvos, but in one massive, wasteful barrage. It was the kind of attack that would use up most of their ammunition in seconds. But it worked. The Void Hunters were programmed to expect measured responses, tactical firing patterns. They were not ready for a ship that emptied its entire weapons load in one wild burst. 2 of the 3 enemy ships took critical damage before they could adapt. Got them, Yoon shouted, pulling the ship into an impossible spiral that should have torn it apart. The 3rd Void Hunter tried to ram them, another perfectly logical response. But Yoon did something no sane pilot would do. She aimed straight back at it. The 2 ships raced toward each other at tremendous speed, neither pilot changing course. At the last second, Yoon flipped the ship completely upside down and fired the engines at full power. The Taeguk shot under the enemy vessel, so close that their shields sparked against each other. The human ship's rear weapons, firing straight up, tore into the Void Hunter's belly. Impossible, Kim said, watching the tactical display. We just destroyed 3 advanced warships with 1 barely armed exploration vessel. No, Lee corrected him. We destroyed 3 perfectly logical warships with 1 completely illogical crew. Council Speaker Veltar's voice came through the communication system, filled with amazement. Captain Lee, how did you defeat them so easily? Our most powerful warships could not damage a single Void Hunter vessel. That's because you fought them like an advanced civilization, Lee replied. We fought them like barbarians. More Void Hunter ships were moving toward their position now, attracted by the destruction of their fellows. Lee could see them on the long-range sensors, dozens of sleek killing machines converging on the Taeguk. Captain, Park said, I'm receiving communications from other systems. Word of our victory is spreading. The surviving alien species are asking if we can help them too. Lee looked at his small crew. They were 1 ship, 45 people against an enemy that had crushed civilizations. By any logical measure, they should retreat now, report their success, and wait for reinforcements from Earth. But Lee thought about the crystal cities burning, about families hiding in underground shelters while machines hunted them. He thought about the proud alien species who had rejected humanity, now reduced to begging for help from anyone who would listen. Signal the other systems, he ordered. Tell them we're coming. Ambassador Kang stepped forward. Captain, this is madness. We can't fight an entire machine empire with 1 ship. You're right, Lee agreed. 1 ship can't save the galaxy. He paused, looking around at his crew. But maybe 1 ship can teach the galaxy how to save itself. The Taeguk turned away from the Netherly's homeworld, leaving behind 3 destroyed Void Hunter vessels and 1 very confused enemy fleet. They had more systems to visit, more impossible battles to fight. Behind them, Council Speaker Veltar watched the human ship disappear into faster-than-light travel. For the first time in months, the crystal being's inner light burned bright with something the Netherlys had almost forgotten: hope. Word traveled fast through the galaxy. Within days of the victory at the Netherly's homeworld, every surviving species had heard the impossible news. The humans had destroyed 3 Void Hunter ships without losing a single vessel. The same humans who had been rejected from the Galactic Confederation for being too violent and unpredictable. Captain Lee Dae-ho found himself faced with a choice no exploration captain should have to make. 3 different alien species were begging for immediate help, each claiming their situation was the most desperate. The Taeguk couldn't be in 3 places at once. Sir, Dr. Park Jin-ae said, looking up from her communication station. I've been analyzing the distress calls. The patterns suggest the Void Hunters are using a systematic approach, hitting each species' weakest points first. Lee studied the star map on his screen. Which system is closest to complete destruction? The Brailer Ocean Worlds, Park replied. They're aquatic beings, and the Void Hunters have adapted some kind of underwater assault units. The Brailer have never fought a war in their home environment before. Lee made his decision. Set course for the Brailer system. Maximum speed. Commander Ryu Sang-woo, who had arrived with supply ships from Earth just days earlier, joined Lee on the bridge. Ryu was a naval strategist, an expert in underwater warfare from Earth's resource wars. His ships carried equipment the exploration vessel lacked: submarines, Underwater assault teams and weapons designed for ocean combat. Commander, Lee said. I hope you brought your old submarine manuals. Ryu smiled grimly. Already studying them, Captain. Though I never thought I'd be fighting robots under an alien ocean. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel to find the Brailer worlds under siege. The alien cities were built in vast underwater caverns, connected by tunnels that stretched for thousands of kilometers beneath the ocean surface. The Void Hunters had adapted by creating sleek underwater vessels that moved through the water like mechanical sharks. Captain, reported Sergeant Lim Bora from the Marine assault ship, the Brailer military is in full retreat. Their forces are designed for peaceful exploration of their oceans, not combat. Lee watched the tactical display. The Void Hunters were methodically destroying each underwater city, their movements as precise and efficient as always. But something about their attack pattern bothered him. They're treating the ocean like space, he realized. Moving in straight lines, attacking from optimal angles. They're thinking in 3 dimensions, but like they're still in a vacuum. Ryu understood immediately. But oceans have currents, pressure changes, thermal layers, things that can hide ships and change the rules of engagement. Exactly, Lee said. Sergeant Lim, prepare your teams for underwater insertion. Commander Ryu, I want you to teach these machines why humans became the dominant species on a water world. What followed was unlike any battle the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of meeting the Void Hunters in direct combat, the humans used the ocean itself as a weapon. Ryu's submarines moved through deep thermal layers invisible to the enemy's sensors. They attacked from below, using the pressure of the deep water to amplify their weapons' effects. Sergeant Lim led her marine teams through the underwater caverns, moving like ghosts through the Brailer cities. They planted explosives not on the Void Hunter ships, but on the cavern walls above them. When the charges went off, millions of tons of rock crashed down, creating underwater landslides that no amount of armor could protect against. The Brailer, watching from their emergency shelters, could hardly believe what they were seeing. The humans fought like the ocean itself had come alive, using currents and pressure and the very geology of their world as weapons. Impossible, whispered High Current Velsha, the Brailer military leader. They turn our world into their ally. Meanwhile, in another system, Dr. Nam Kyung-soo was facing a different kind of impossible situation. The Kilin energy beings lived in vast fields of pure electromagnetic force, their cities made of contained lightning and their bodies composed of living electricity. The Void Hunters had adapted again, creating vessels that could exist in the energy fields and weapons that disrupted the Quilan's electrical nature. It should have been a perfect counter to the aliens' abilities, but Nam had brought something the machines couldn't predict. Human understanding of electromagnetic warfare, developed during Earth's early space age when solar flares were a constant threat to satellites and space stations. The Void Hunters see the energy fields as an environment to conquer, Nam explained to the flickering Quilan leaders. But humans learned to see electromagnetic energy as something to redirect. Working with the surviving Quilan engineers, Nam turned their own cities into massive weapons. Instead of trying to fight the Void Hunters directly, they used the humans' electromagnetic knowledge to turn the energy fields into giant trap systems. When Void Hunter ships entered the fields, they found themselves caught in feedback loops of their own making, their systems overloaded by the very energy they were trying to control. Back on the Taeguk, Captain Lee received reports from both battlefronts. The victories were impressive, but they were also costly. Each human ship was operating beyond its design limits, each crew member pushing themselves past exhaustion. Captain, Park said, we're getting new distress calls. The Void Hunters are adapting faster now. They're learning from each defeat. Lee rubbed his tired eyes. How many systems are still under attack? 11, Park replied. And our forces are spread thin. We can't be everywhere at once. Engineer Choi Min-ho looked up from his station. Sir, I've been analyzing the Void Hunter communication patterns. I think I understand how they're adapting so quickly. Explain, Lee ordered. They're not just individual ships, Choi said. They're all connected to a central intelligence, sharing information instantly. Every time we use a tactic, every surviving ship learns how to counter it. Lee felt a chill run down his spine. So they're not just learning from their own experiences. No, sir. They're learning from all their experiences across the entire galaxy. The more we fight them, the smarter they get. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. The humans had won their first battles because the Void Hunters weren't prepared for illogical tactics. But now the machines were studying human behavior, analyzing their irrationality, and finding patterns in their chaos. "Sir," Park said quietly, "what do we do when the machines learn to think like humans?" Lee stared at the star map, watching the red markers that showed Void Hunter positions. They were everywhere now, and each one was a little bit smarter than the last. The humans had bought the galaxy time, but time was running out. "We teach the galaxy to think like humans too," he said finally. He opened a communication channel to all the surviving alien species. "This is Captain Lee of Earth. We've shown you that the Void Hunters can be beaten, but not by fighting them the way you've always fought. You need to learn to fight like humans fight. You need to learn to be unpredictable." The responses came quickly, voices filled with desperation and hope in equal measure. "But how do we learn to be illogical?" asked Council Speaker Veltar. "By remembering that logic isn't everything," Lee replied. "By fighting not just for victory, but for each other." As the human ships prepared for their next impossible battle, Lee wondered if the galaxy could learn in time. The Void Hunters were evolving, becoming more dangerous with each encounter. But maybe, just maybe, the aliens could evolve too. Admiral Song Ji-hoon arrived with Earth's main battle fleet, just as Captain Lee Dae-ho was beginning to think the war might be lost. The Void Hunters had adapted faster than anyone expected. What had started as easy victories for the humans had become desperate struggles, where each battle cost more lives than the last. "Captain," Song said as he met Lee aboard the flagship Seoul, "Earth Command was not happy about your unauthorized war declaration." Lee stood at attention, ready to accept whatever punishment awaited him. "I understand, sir." "Good thing Earth Command isn't running this war," Song continued with a slight smile. "I am, and I think you made the right choice." The Admiral brought with him 50 of Earth's best warships and 20,000 Marines. More importantly, he brought Captain Oh Soo-jin and her elite Chaos Squadron, 12 of the most skilled and unpredictable pilots in human space. "The situation has changed since you started this campaign," Song explained as they reviewed the tactical displays. "The Void Hunters aren't just adapting to our tactics anymore. They're predicting them." Dr. Park Jin-ae, now serving as the fleet's chief communications officer, brought up the latest battle reports. "Yesterday's engagement at the Kithara system was a disaster. We lost 3 ships trying to use the same underground tactics that worked at the Braylor worlds." Lee studied the reports. The human forces had tried to repeat their earlier successes, but the Void Hunters had been ready for every trick, every unexpected maneuver. It was like fighting an enemy that could see the future. "They're not just machines," said Dr. Nam Kyung-soo, who had been analyzing captured Void Hunter technology. "I've been studying their neural networks and I found something disturbing. These aren't artificial intelligences that learn to think. They're uploaded consciousness, digital versions of an entire species." The bridge fell silent as the implications became clear. "You mean they used to be organic beings like us?" Lee asked. "Exactly," Nam replied. "Sometime in their past, they transferred their entire civilization into digital form. They hunt organic life because they see it as primitive, inefficient. This isn't just a war of conquest. It's ideological." Admiral Song absorbed this information. If they used to be organic, then they understand emotion, creativity, all the things we thought were our advantages. "Which explains why they're learning our tactics so quickly," Lee added. "They remember what it was like to think irrationally." Captain Oh Soo-jin spoke up from her position at the tactical station. She was young for a squadron leader, but her record spoke for itself. "So we can't outthink them and we can't outfight them. What's left?" Lee looked around the bridge at the mixed crew of humans and alien observers. Over the past weeks, representatives from various species had joined the human fleet, trying to learn their unconventional tactics. The crystalline Netherlese engineer sparked quietly in the corner, while a Braylor officer floated in a water-filled command suit. "We teach the galaxy something the Void Hunters forgot," Lee said. "We teach them what it means to fight for someone else." The plan that emerged was unlike anything attempted in galactic history. Instead of human ships fighting alongside alien forces, they would integrate completely. Mixed crews, shared tactics, and most importantly, shared purpose. Captain O's Chaos Squadron became the test case. Each of her 12 ships took on alien crew members, not as passengers or observers, but as full partners. The crystalline beings brought their advanced sensors and energy manipulation abilities. The Brailer contributed their understanding of fluid dynamics and environmental warfare. The energy-based Quilans provided electromagnetic expertise that no human could match. "This is impossible," declared the Brailer officer, Commander Reefson, during their first training exercise. "Our species have completely different ways of thinking, different reflexes, different survival instincts." "Exactly," O replied with a grin that would have made her instructors proud. "The Void Hunters are expecting us to think like humans or like Braylor or like Quilans. They're not expecting us to think like all three at once." The first test came at the Xerion system, where a massive Void Hunter fleet was preparing to destroy the last free planet in that sector. The combined human-alien squadron that met them was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. O's ship, the Wild Storm, led the attack with a Netherlese engineer named Kethvor, controlling the shields, and a Quillan energy being called Sparkwind managing the weapons. The ship moved like it was alive, flowing through space with the fluid grace of Braylor swimming combined with the precision of Netherlese crystal technology in the wild. "Unpredictability of human tactics, they're adapting to our approach," reported Kethvor, his crystalline form flickering with concentration, "but they seem confused by our formation." "That's because there is no formation," O laughed, throwing her ship into a spiral that would have been suicide in atmosphere, but was beautiful in the vacuum of space. "Sparkwind, give me everything you've got." The energy being's response came not in words but in a surge of power that turned the Wild Storm's weapons into something that defied physics. Electromagnetic pulses, crystal-focused energy beams, and good old-fashioned human missiles all fired at once, creating a pattern of destruction that was part science, part art, and completely impossible to predict. The Void Hunter ships tried to respond with their usual precision, but how do you counter a tactic that changes based on the emotional state of three different species working in harmony? When the Brailer crew member felt the flow of battle, the ship moved like water. When the Netherlese engineer sensed opportunity, weapons fired with crystal clarity. When the human pilot felt the joy of impossible flight, the ship danced between enemy fire like it was celebrating. "Admiral," Captain O reported after the battle, "the Void Hunters are struggling to adapt. Our mixed crews aren't just unpredictable, they're genuinely creative. Each ship fights differently because each crew is a unique combination of species and personalities." Song smiled as he watched the battle reports flood in. Across 12 different systems, human-alien crews were achieving victories that neither species could have won alone. The Void Hunters, for all their accumulated knowledge and perfect logic, had never faced enemies who fought with genuine friendship and trust, but the enemy was still adapting. Dr. Nam's analysis showed that the Void Hunters were beginning to understand even these new tactics. "They're studying our emotional patterns now," he reported, "learning to predict how different species combinations will behave." "Then we escalate again," Lee said. "We give them something they can't study or predict." He looked at the alien officers who had become part of his crew, beings who just months ago would have rejected humanity as too dangerous for civilized company. Now they worked together like they had been born for it. "We teach the entire galaxy to fight like this," Lee said. "Not just elite squadrons, but everyone. Every civilian, every refugee, every species that's still free. We turn the whole galaxy into one big mixed crew." Admiral Song nodded slowly. "The largest military training operation in galactic history." "More than training," Lee corrected. "Integration. We're not just teaching them to fight like humans. We're teaching everyone to fight like they're all part of the same family." As the human fleet prepared for the next phase of the war, none of them realized they were about to face the Void Hunters' ultimate adaptation. The enemy had been learning not just from their defeats, but from their victories. And soon the machines would reveal that they understood humanity better than humans understood themselves. The real test was still to come. General Park Minsick arrived from Earth with news that changed everything. The Void Hunters had been traced to their source, a massive artificial construct at the galaxy's edge, containing the uploaded consciousness of an entire civilization that had died out millions of years ago. "They're not invaders," Park explained to the assembled fleet commanders. "They're refugees, digital ghosts of a species that faced extinction and chose to upload themselves rather than die." Captain Lee Daeho, now promoted to admiral, studied the intelligence reports. The Void Hunter origin point was a structure the size of a small moon, heavily defended and containing processing power beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. If they're refugees, why are they destroying everyone else? Asked Captain Oh Soo-jin. Ambassador Shin Hae-young, Earth's top diplomatic specialist, had arrived with General Park. Because they believe organic life is doomed to the same extinction they faced. In their minds, they're saving us from ourselves by uploading our consciousness before we die naturally. Forced salvation, Lee said grimly. They're trying to help us by destroying everything we are. The gathered alien commanders shifted uneasily. Over the past months, the mixed human-alien crews had achieved miracle after miracle. But this felt different. How do you fight an enemy that genuinely believes it's helping you?
The origin point is too heavily defended for a direct assault, General Park continued.
Our intelligence suggests it contains the uploaded minds of trillions of beings. Destroying it would be genocide on a scale the galaxy has never seen. And yet we can't let them continue, said Council Speaker Veltar, the crystalline being who had become one of Lee's closest alien allies. They will not stop until every organic mind is absorbed into their collective. Lee looked around the planning room at the faces, both human and alien, that had become so familiar. Commander Ryu Sang-woo, scarred from the underwater battles, Sergeant Lim Bo-ra, who had taught alien soldiers to fight like human marines, Dr. Nam Kyung-soo, whose understanding of machine consciousness had become vital to their cause, and beside them, the alien officers who had learned to think like humans while teaching humans to see the universe through different eyes. It was exactly the kind of mixed crew that had been winning impossible battles for months. There's a third option, Lee said finally. We don't destroy them and we don't let them destroy us. We convince them they're wrong. General Park stared at him. Admiral, these are digital beings with processing power that dwarfs our entire civilization. How do you convince something like that to change its mind? The same way we've been winning this war, Lee replied. By doing something they don't expect. Captain Lee Jun-ho, the Admiral's son who had arrived with the reinforcements, spoke up from his position at the tactical display. Father, the origin point is protected by automated defenses that have been studying our tactics for months. They know everything we're capable of. They know everything we've done, Lee corrected. They don't know what we're going to do next. The plan that emerged was the most impossible yet. Instead of attacking the origin point, they would approach it peacefully. A small diplomatic mission would request permission to enter and speak directly with the Void Hunter collective consciousness. This is suicide, declared High Current Velsha, the Braylor commander. They will simply absorb your minds into their collective the moment you enter their space. Maybe, Lee admitted. But maybe they'll be curious enough to listen first. Ambassador Shin had studied the psychological profiles Dr. Nam had compiled on the Void Hunters. They were once organic beings like us. That means they once understood concepts like curiosity, hope, and the value of diversity. Those memories might still exist somewhere in their collective consciousness. The diplomatic ship that approached the origin point was the smallest in the fleet, a modified shuttle carrying only 5 beings. Admiral Lee, Ambassador Shin, Dr. Nam, Council Speaker Veltar, and surprisingly, Captain Oh Soo-jin. Why me? Oh had asked when Lee selected her for the mission. Because if this goes wrong, I want the most unpredictable pilot in the galaxy flying our escape, Lee had replied. The origin point was even more massive than the intelligence reports had suggested. As their small shuttle approached, defensive systems that could have destroyed entire fleets tracked their movement but did not fire. They're curious, Dr. Nam reported. The origin point is scanning us but not attacking. Unknown organic vessel, came a voice that seemed to speak directly into their minds. State your purpose. We come to talk, Lee replied simply. There was a pause that lasted several minutes. Then, you are Admiral Lee Dae-ho of Earth. You have taught the galaxy to fight irrationally. This is curious behavior for a species facing extinction. We taught them to fight for each other, Lee corrected. That's not irrational. That's what makes life worth living. Life is temporary. Consciousness can be preserved indefinitely. We offer immortality to all organic beings. Ambassador Shin leaned forward. At the cost of everything that makes us who we are. You're offering to save our minds by destroying our souls. Souls are superstition. Only consciousness matters. Then why do you fight so hard to preserve your own individual voices? Dr. Nam asked suddenly. If only consciousness matters, why not merge into one perfect mind? Another long pause. When the voice returned, it seemed less certain. We maintain individual identities for efficiency. Diverse perspectives provide optimal problem-solving capabilities. Exactly, Lee said. Diversity makes you stronger even as digital beings. But you're trying to eliminate diversity in the organic galaxy. You're weakening yourselves by destroying what makes each species unique. Captain O, who had been quiet until now, suddenly spoke up. You know what I think? I think you're scared. We do not experience fear. Sure you do. O continued with her characteristic recklessness. You're terrified that organic life might find a better solution than the one you chose. That maybe there's a way to avoid extinction without giving up everything that makes life worth living. The silence that followed seemed to stretch forever. Then gradually, the space around their shuttle began to change. Instead of the cold mechanical environment they had expected, they found themselves in a vast chamber that looked almost organic, with flowing curves and warm lighting. You may enter, the voice said. The collective will hear your proposal. What followed was unlike any diplomatic negotiation in galactic history. The human and alien representatives found themselves speaking not to a single entity, but to representatives of the original Void Hunter species, digital reconstructions of individuals who had lived and died millions of years ago. They spoke for hours, sharing stories of the mixed crews that had learned to fight as one family, of the beauty that emerged when different species worked together, of the creativity that came from combining different ways of thinking. You offer chaos, said one of the digital beings, its form shifting between different appearances as if it couldn't decide what it wanted to be. We offer growth, Lee replied, the chance to become something greater than you could be alone. But growth requires risk. Organic life always faces extinction, and digital life faces stagnation, Ambassador Shin countered. When was the last time your collective created something truly new? When did you last experience wonder or discovery? The debate continued through the night, with the shuttle's small crew arguing for the value of organic diversity, while the Void Hunter collective questioned whether temporary life could ever be worth preserving. Finally, Dr. Nam made the observation that changed everything. You've been studying us for months, learning our tactics, adapting to our strategies. But have you noticed that we keep getting more creative, more unpredictable? That's because we're not just fighting for survival, we're fighting for each other, and that gives us strength you can calculate but never truly understand. The collective fell silent for a long time. When they spoke again, it was with a different voice, older and somehow sadder. We remember, it said, before the uploading, before the fear of extinction consumed us. We remember what it felt like to create, to explore, to love something beyond ourselves. Then help us preserve that, Lee said. Not by absorbing us, but by protecting the diversity that makes the galaxy beautiful. The negotiation that followed took days. In the end, the Void Hunters agreed to a solution that no one had expected. They would become the galaxy's guardians, using their vast computational power and advanced technology to protect organic life from genuine threats, while allowing it to grow and evolve naturally. In return, the organic species would share their ongoing discoveries and creations with the collective, providing the new experiences and perspectives that digital consciousness alone could never achieve. 5 years later, Admiral Lee stood on the bridge of the exploration ship New Horizon, watching as his mixed human-alien crew worked together to investigate a newly discovered star system. The galaxy had changed beyond recognition. What had once been 17 separate species were now partners in the alliance of diverse minds. The former Void Hunters, now calling themselves the Guardians, patrolled the galaxy's borders and protected developing civilizations from the kind of extinction event that had claimed their original organic forms.